Chav Daled Amid
Good
Base.
morning to you.
Sorry, Chav Hey Amid Base. And we had just learned the value or the mitzvah of Lakas Neris. The Gemara says in the pasuk in Eicha, Atiznach Mishalom Nafshi Nashisi Tova, and my soul was removed from peace. I lost my peace, and I lost or forgotten Tova, goodness. So my Vatiznach Mishalom Nafshi. What does it mean? I lost my my soul, the peace of my soul. Amar Bozad Lakas Ner b'Shabbos. That is the Ner Shabbos was lost, and that is a loss of shalom in the home, and therefore losing shalom in the home on Shabbos is a great loss. Nashisi Tova, and I've forgotten goodness. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Zu Beis Hamirchatz. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan Zurachitzis Yadayim Raglayim. It's going to a bathhouse, or washing one's hands and feet. The ability to wash oneself and take care of oneself. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar Zumitena V'Kelim Noim Shalal. It's a nice bed and nice vessels and nice materials that are on it. And remember, they would eat on bed, so it doesn't necessarily mean a sleeping bed. It can mean a dining room set. The idea is to have a place in the home that is peaceful, that is comfortable. We know that a nice environment and marchivin daita shaladam makes a person's mind at ease and therefore able to focus more and be broadly. Think in a broader way, and this minimized, and this was lost. Rabbi Abba says, he says that it means to have a bed that is set, meaning again that everything is tidy, and a trustworthy, a truthful woman. That means that there's peace because of trustworthiness. For Talmidei Chachamim, who then are able to learn Torah, so that was lost in the lack of a stable home and trustworthiness in the home, which did not allow the mind to expand for Talmidei Chachamim. Tana Rabbanan, so Bryce says, "Ezo Asher, Kol sheyesh le'nachas ruach ba'ashrei divrei Rabbi Meir." Who is considered a wealthy person? You know, that anybody that has pleasure in that which he is doing, and with what and enjoys what he has, that's a true wealthy person. I mean, Meir, away most of what he had, said, appropriately said this because this was his form of wealth. He was happy with giving it away. Simim mem teskuf samach. So Rabbi Tarfon, however, Rabbi Tarfon, he says, Kol sheyesh lekuf karabim me'esadas me'avadim shavdim. Somebody has 100 vineyards and 100 fields and 100 servants to work in them. Rabbi Tarfon was exceedingly wealthy, and he had a lot of property, and so he says that's what considered wealthy. Rabbi Akiva says wealth is what he had, a woman who is na'eh b'masim, kind and nice in her actions. As we know, Rabbi Akiva had a wife who trusted in him and had faith that he'd be able to grow, and married him even when he was a shepherd and ignorant, illiterate. On account of that, he would go and learn, and he became the great Talmid Chacham on account of her. Rabbi Yossi says anybody that has a accessible bathroom near where he eats. Again, the Moratzchias brings statements of Rabbi Yossi similar to this in the value of gastro health. Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, Ein madlikim, back to Shabbos, Ein madlikim batzari, you can't light with this sap called tsari. My time, what's the reason? It has a really good smell. We're afraid he's going to take some out of the oil cup that the wick is in, and the fire is in order to maybe put some on his hands, or it wants to use it as perfume, and he's going to take some out. And by taking out some of the oil, some of the fuel in a candle, you are essentially causing its early extinction, and that's also on Shabbos. That's a form of extinguishing a fire by removing some of the fuel. Amalei Abaye said, and we're now on Chavav Amud Aleph 26a at the top. Lema Mar Mipnei Shu'af. Why did you say the reason is because he may take some of he may take some of the fuel out? Why didn't you say the reason is because it jumps and it sparks and it can send some sparks out and burn things down. Chadvaid Kamar. You're right. It's one of many reasons. One, because Chadam Mipnei Shu'af. One is, of course, it's dangerous because it's not a stable fire and it sends off sparks. And besides, maybe he may use some of the oil. So Gemara tells us a very odd story, and Rabbi Elyashiv says the reason it's here is because it wanted to tell us that how few people recognize the danger of the flammability and the danger of the sap, and therefore there was a need to prohibit the use because people are not careful and didn't know how dangerous it was. There was a mother-in-law that was in a fight with her daughter-in-law. Why don't you use some balsam oils to make yourself nice? So she went and she did it. Kiyosis, when she came back, she said to her, Zil itli shraga, why don't you go light the candle? Azla itli shraga, she went and lit the candle, and inpach banura, and a spark jumped out at her, and she got burned. So, because it caught the balsam oil that she was on it. So we see that people did not recognize the danger of this candle, and therefore there was a need to enact a prohibition of using it on Shabbos. Or actually, some say that this prohibition would be even during the weekday because of the danger. So the pasuk says that, and from of the poverty in the land, from the meagerness in the land, Nevazradan, the butcher, Nevazradan, the murderer, allowed for the karmim and the yogvim. So what are the karmim and the yogvim? So these are the vineyards and the winemakers. In the simple translation, Gemara says, no, well, you know what karmim is? Taner of Yosef ela belakte afar samon. These are the people that gathered afar samon, which is I think they say balsam oil. Me'ein gedi va'ad ramta. People that gathered the balsam from Ein Gedi to Ramza. So that was considered important in Nevazradan because the royals liked balsam oil. And Yogvim and the Yogvim are the people that gathered the Chilazon, which was the creature that they got the blue dye for Techelas from Tyre to Haifa. That's where they would harvest them, and those were left because they would make the dyes that were royal colors, and they wanted them. So back to Shabbos. So Tanar Rabbanan I think of a tevel tummy. You may not use fuel untithed produce, a produce that teruma had not been taken from. You cannot, you may not use it as a fuel, not only for the Shabbos candles, but you're not allowed to use it even for a weekday candle, even b'chol. And for sure you can't use it for Shabbos. Can't even use it on a weekday. And similarly, white neft, meaning clear neft. And we said yesterday that it seems like it is a turpentine, a refined sap that has a foul smell. So you can't use it even on a weekday, and for sure not on Shabbos. Now, Bishlam and neft lavan, why can't you use neft lavan, white neft, as a which means clear, as a fuel, mipnei shuaf, as we said, because it's dangerous, because it's not a stable fire. It jumps and it sends sparks out, and it's a danger, so you can't use it even on weekday. Aval tevel tummy, but untithed produce that's tummy, that anyway. If you're going to separate it, you're going to give it to a kohen to use for fuel, because when you separate teruma from something that's tummy, the kohen may not eat it, so he's only allowed to use it for fuel anyhow. So why can't you use it as fuel? So what's the reason? Gemara says, "My time Makra." It says in the pasuk, "Va'ani hinei nisatachas mishmeres terumasai." I gave to you, to the kohen, mishmeres terumasai, the remembrance, the guarding of my terumos, the obligation to care for multiple teruma. And as we said yesterday, that means that not only the teruma that's tahor, which the kohen then has the mitzvah to eat, but even teruma, the tithe, the uplifted section from the produce that goes to the kohen, that teruma that's already tameh, when it was separated, is also going to go to the kohen, and it's going to go to him as a second type of protecting. He must guard it to use it and benefit from it as in fuel. Don't waste it. So, mishmeres teruma, saibe straight teruma, sakazam adaber echad teruma, hora vechad teruma tameh, teruma that's tahor or tameh. And just as in the kohen's regular teruma, you may not benefit from it, you may not use it until such time that you've tithed it and given it to him. So too, so too the teruma tamea, you may not benefit from it until such time that you've separated the teruma and given it to the kohen. Now, Rashi and Tues point out that there's no known prohibition of benefiting from untithed produce. You're not allowed to eat untithed produce, but benefiting is not clear. So where do we know this from? Rashi says it's a kavachomer. Tues says that it's not a kavachomer, it's a memetzino. But either way, the limud goes like this. The Torah says that you have to give to the kohen teruma tamea. That's what's implied in the two types of terumas. There's only one teruma, so it must be whether it's tahor or not. The kohen has rights to it, and you're not allowed to benefit from it. Now, in food, in the teruma tahora, I may think it means you're not allowed to eat from it. But in teruma tamea, or in tevel tameh, which is the untithed tameh produce, you have no use for it other than you're not allowed to eat it anyhow, and the kohen may not eat it. So the only use in the teruma is in as much as it's for fuel. And yet the Torah says you have to guard it, meaning you're not allowed to benefit from it, you're not allowed to use it for fuel prior to when the kohen uses it for fuel. So that means when you tithe, when you take off that section of teruma, that's when you're allowed to benefit from it as fuel, and that's when the kohen can benefit from his section as fuel. And if teruma tamea you're not allowed to, tevel tameh you're not allowed to benefit from, for sure Rashi says you're not allowed to benefit from the teruma or tevel that is still tahor that could still be given to the kohen in a proper way.
So just to clarify, so what if the tevel is tameh, then too bad you lose. You can't do anything with it. You can't take truma out of tevel tameh. Is that correct?
You may, but you're not allowed to take tevel tameh on tahor. So if you have all of your produce is tameh, then your teruma is going to be from tameh produce. You just can't take from tameh produce and give that to the kohen and have it cover non-tameh or tahor produce. But when it's all tameh, you're supposed to take a section of that and give to the kohen, and that's what we're talking about. You give
even though it's
tevel
tameh.
You have a whole bunch of tevel. You have a whole bunch of tevel that's tameh, and of all that tevel, you're not allowed to benefit from that and use the oils. Rather, you have to first take the teruma and give it to the kohen, which he's going to use as fuel, and then you may use your own as fuel.
Got it.
Gufa. Let's analyze the statement. Rabbi Shimon Elazar says you may not use fuel for your candles with tsari. And similarly, Rabbi Shimon Elazar said that tsari is not really an oil, or rather it is sap from the kataf tree. Now, Rashi has two versions. Is the Gemara bringing this as a reason why you're not allowed to use it as fuel? Because the oils that you use for Shabbos candles must be made of a derivative of produce and not of wood, of trees. It can't be from a tree. It has to be from the fruit. And therefore, this would be a different reason and an additional reason to the two reasons said above, which is that it is dangerous and because you may end up using some. Or no, this is not a reason why you can't use it for Shabbos. This is simply once we're talking about it, he wants to tell you another tidbit about it. By the way, you should know that it is sap and not a fruit. Either way, we have two reasons already not to use tsari. One is because it smells so good, you may take some of the fuel out, which is a form of extinguishing on Shabbos, or because you may end up it may end up making a fire. And the third reason would be that it's not actually fruit. It's not a derivative from fruit. It's a derivative of a tree, which is no good. And then we have Rabbi Shmuel who says anything that comes from wood, from trees, are not allowed to be used as your fuel for candles. Rabbi Shmuel ben Baruch says that it's the meaning is that you're not allowed to use anything other than what comes from a fruit itself. Rabbi Tarfon says you can only use olive oil. So Rabbi Yechanan protested. He got up on his feet and he said, "No way. What about the people in Babylon, in Bavel? All they have is sesame oil. What about the Medes? All they have is walnut oil. And what about the people of Alexandria? That all they have is oil from root vegetables, from Sinai. What about the people of Kaputkia? All they have as fuel is neft. And so they don't even have a nice smelling oil. So the only things you cannot use are the oils in the Mishnah that the problem with them is that they don't serve well as fuel because they don't get drawn up into the wick well. But other than that, everything else is permissible. As we know, any enactment has to be something that the majority of people can hold up to it, can live with it, and otherwise it doesn't. We shouldn't enact it. And if it is enacted and the people don't live up to it, then the gzera is batel by itself. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. He said, well, you can't make a prohibition and say you must only use a takana and say you have to use olive oil when it doesn't work for the majority of places. So rather, only the things that the Mishnah says you're not allowed to use are the things you can't use. And therefore, you're allowed to use even fish oils. And we saw Rashi, and Rashi says fish oil is fish gut oil, and Tessa says fish oil is fish eye oil. I don't know what that is. Ubi itran, and you're allowed to use itran, which is also a type of sap. Shimon Shazuri says that you can use also the Shem and Pekuas, which is like a linen reed oil, and naphtha is a sap. So you can use even these. So Sumcha anything, Sumcha says anything that comes from fats may not be used besides for fish oil. That too is a fat, but you're not allowed to use it. But you are allowed to use it. And what it says, Simchas Hainu Tanakama. Simchas seems to be the same as the first opinion. Well, the difference is whether even if it's not prohibited, even though you're allowed to, you're not allowed to use other fats, but perhaps if you add regular oil, olive oil, into melted meat fat, are you allowed to use it or not? And that would be the machlokas. But we don't know which one holds which. Rashi and Tues have two versions over here about the fish oil, whether fish oil also would require that you put some oil into it in order to make it permissible or not. In any case, so we have a list of opinions. Rabbi Tarfon says only olive oil. We have Rabbi Shmuel says anything that comes from wood may not be used. It has to be only produce. It comes from a fruit. And we have Rabbi Yochanan says that you can even use naft and other fruit oils, and you can even use fish oil. And Rabbi Shimon Shazuri says that you can even use some sap oils, some sap, the naft, which comes from a sap, and sumchus and the Tanakama, which are permitting even fish oil and some fat oils, if at least one of them, if you add some oil to it. Tanya Rabbi Shimon Elazar Emek Kol Yitzim and Yitzim Bayel Mishum Shalosh Al Shalosh U'Mesachchen B'Chutz Pishta. So we're getting back into Tuma and Tahara, and we need to introduce a bit of the concepts here. So the halacha is that a vessel is susceptible to Tuma. Clothing or cloth is considered a vessel and is susceptible to Tuma. How big of a vessel? So if you have a torn off section of a proper garment, a full-size garment, so then even if it's small, it'll be, because it still could serve as a patch or put back, and it comes from a larger garment, so then it would be susceptible to Tuma still. If, however, it's not, you can't use it for something else, so that, or it's an original piece of material, so it has a minimum size. There are two minimum sizes, either 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, so let's say 10 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches, roughly, let's say. Or we have 3 fingers by 3 fingers. This actually could be 3 fingers like that, but let's say 3 fingers by 3 fingers. And that would be in certain materials because they can be used as a patch or for a poor person as a kerchief. So Kollel yotzim and eitz. Now this halacha says that anything that comes from wood. So if you have wood fibers, such as linen is a wood fiber. Now you have other tree fibers. We've seen before. There's these fibers that are beneath the bark of certain cedar trees or other trees. We've seen fibers on palm trees. So if you made a garment, and you made a cloth out of any of these fibers, they will not count as a garment unless they have 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths, and then it counts at least as a patch or as a kerchief. Chutz mepishtan. Besides for linen, linen is going to count and is going to count as a garment and be susceptible to tumah even in small. And therefore, if it is not susceptible to tumah in a smaller amount, then even though that it's somewhat woven and therefore should be susceptible, considered a finished product, since it's not susceptible to tumah, you may use it for your schach on your sukkah. So if you can get little patches of woven wicker, baskets, small patches of them. That's not since it comes out of wood. It's not susceptible to tumah less than 3 inches, 3 fingers by 3 fingers. So you can use it as your schach. Amar Abaye says. And this we're now on 26b Chavav Amid Beis. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar that this statement of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who said that anything that comes from wood is not susceptible to tumah at 3 finger breadths, or less than 3 finger breadths, is the same as Rabbi Yishmael, who says a similar thing. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Hadamran. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, what we just said, that anything that comes from wood is not susceptible to tumah less than 3 finger breadths. Tanat Rabbi Yishmael, where is a concurring statement by Rabbi Yishmael? Mahi. The Tanat Rabbi Yishmael, we learned in the Academy of Rabbi Yishmael. It says many times in the Torah, garments, clothing. It says if there is a tumah that comes on a garment or on hides, it says that you have to put tzitzis on a garment. And many times in various halachos, the Torah says beged, but it doesn't define it for us. But we have one place that the Torah defines it. And the Torah specified in one of the places, it says that if there will be a tsaras, let's call it leprosy, even though that's not the correct term for a garment, but if there's a tsaras on a garment, on either, it says on the wool or the linen. Oh, so now we see a garment is wool or linen. Malahalan, semerapishtim, afkol semerapishtim. So from there we learn that anytime the Torah says a garment, it's referring to wool or linen. And therefore, there, as we mentioned yesterday, the opinion of Beis Shammai Mesil of whether or not garments that are wool or linen, or whether they're the only ones that are obligated in tzitzis or not. So Rava Amar Shlosha al Shlosha. Tzemer Pishtim. I've called Tzemer Pishtim, and therefore only wool and linen count as a garment. And so if you have a garment made of other materials, it's not going to count as a garment, and therefore it can't be considered a cloth. It will only be at a value of something else that it could be susceptible to tumah. It's not going to be susceptible to tumah if it comes from wood. So Gemara says no. Rava Amar Shlosha Shlosha B'Shar Begadim Mekabenai. No, of course, there's a distinction between the two, because by other garments larger than 3 tefachim would count as a garment. The Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Isli. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds that the rule of 3 finger breadths doesn't apply. But if it's the size of 3 tefachim, by 3 tefachim, that's enough to be an independent kerchief, an independent garment, and it'll count as a garment even though it can't be used as a patch, even though that it's smaller would not count. So something that comes, according to the first opinion, something that comes from a tree would count enough as a material and garment and susceptible to tumah if it is large enough that it is 3 tefachim, so say 12 inches by 12 inches. The Tana of Rabbi Shmuel Leslie. But according to Tana, the teaching in the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel, the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel, there we're gonna say his opinion is, and actually even if it's large enough to be 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, it would also not count as a garment because the Torah specified only wool and linen. That's what's a garment. And so if you have silk, if you have something that comes from a tree, you made some other canvas material, it's not going to count. The Kuli Alma Mia Shalosh Al Shalosh B'Tzemer Pishtim Mitama Ben Agoyim Minola. So what we do say is, but everybody agrees by wool and by linen. If it's three fingers by 3 fingers in its breadth, it would be susceptible to toma by negoyim, by a tzaras. Minolan, how do we know this? The time we learned beget, it says a beget, a garment. Only a beget. So I think only if it's a proper garment. Shalosh al shalosh manayim. How do you know even if it's a small piece of garment, a cloth that could be a patch or something? Tamalema veha beget. That's what it says. And the garment, anything that's a part of it, anything that could be a part of it. The Eimal Rabbi Shlosh al Shlosha. Wouldn't you say that first? Let's include a large enough kerchief that it could be a kerchief in and of itself, which is 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim. How do you know to include 3 fingers by 3 fingers?
The midos shalosh or shalosh or shlosha, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, or how did they know that?
Yes, all midos halacha Moshe Sinai. So they knew that it was 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, or 3 fingers by 3 fingers. That's already known, and the question is where to apply that. So saying why you're applying immediately, you're jumping from garment to a patch of 3 by 3 fingers. Why don't you first say, since the Torah says veha beged and the garment, that it should include not only the garment but a small garment, a 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim. Lav kavachomu hashta shesi ve'erim mitame shlisha v'shlisha mibayim. So we say that it's a kavachomer because the Torah says if it's in a linen or it's in wool, or it's in the warp or the weft, whatever those terms are, the vertical or the horizontal in the weaving. Yeah, I have a mental block on those 2 words. So whatever the words are, the vertical, which in the weaving process go up and down.
Warp and woof.
What was that?
Warp and woof.
Warp.
Mortar and pestle.
Thank you very much.
Warp and weft, Donna says.
So I got it right. Warp and weft. All right. There we go. It seems, Charles, you also have a mental block on those 2 terms. And Michael
Woof,
showed us.
you're right on that one.
And Michael reminded us that he can't remember which is the mortar and which is the pestle. Okay, so the Torah says whether in the warp or in the weft, which is either in the weaving process, so they would have vertical lines that the machine would bring up and down, and then the horizontal lines were basically a shuttle that we thrown through and bring the thread through one side, and then they would switch the position and throw it through again. And the Torah says whether the tzaras is in the shesi or the area of the vertical or the horizontal lines. So we see that if it's possible that even just the vertical lines or the horizontal lines are enough to be a tzaras, then for sure in a small patch that would be sufficient for tzaras. So Gemara says, well, if you're saying that a 3 by 3 tefach, which is a small kerchief or a small or a large patch, which are enough of a vessel for everybody. Everybody can use it as a material. And whether you wear patches or you wear it as a kerchief, that's for sure included. Well, why don't we also include 3 fingers by 3 fingers, which can be used for a patch by some people? The Gemara says no. Only a 3 tefach by 3 tefach, which can either be for rich people as a kerchief, or for poor people as a patch, or a kerchief. Therefore, it's a garment to everybody. So then I could say a kal v'chomer. I can say if the individual threads, warp and weft, the threads are tsaras, for sure, in a full garment, in a full kerchief, that can count. But shalosh al shalosh, but a 3 finger by 3 finger, which only counts as a vessel in regards to poor people, because only poor people can use them as a vessel, because they wear patches. A rich person wouldn't have anything to do with such a patch of clothing. Lashim lechazin, it's not considered a garment for the rich people. So therefore, that cannot be a part of the kal v'chomer. So we say like this. So how do we know that there's a 3 finger by 3 finger tuma in regards to tsaras in a garment? Since the Torah says in wool and linen, and then it says in the warp and the weft, and the shesi and the erev. Well, if there's a shesi and the erev, the horizontal and vertical threads can become tamei, for sure. An independent piece of garment can become tamei. Now, what's the minimum independent garment? A kerchief, which would be 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, 3 fist breadths, right? Which is, let's say, 12 by 12. The Gemara says, but why don't we also include in the kal v'chomer the 3 finger by 3 finger patch of cloth? It says no, that's not going to be included in. You can't be sure that would count, because that actually has no use for some people. The warp and the weft have use for everybody, because that's how you have a woven garment. A 3 tefach by 3 tefach also is a full garment for everybody in some way or another, whether it's a kerchief or whether it's a patch. But 3 fingers by 3 fingers are not a patch for everybody, because rich people will have nothing to do with it. They're going to toss it. So therefore, it's only going to be susceptible to tumah based on the teaching, the extra word that the Torah says after it already says a garment. It says and the garment is including the 3 finger by 3 finger patch as a source of tumah, as susceptible to tumah as a garment in tsaras. So Gemara says, okay, so time of the kasvei kra. So now, based on the extra words, we know that it's susceptible to tumah, even though that it's a 3 finger by 3 finger patch. But if not for the pasuk, if not for the extra words, I would not learn it from the kal v'chomer and say if the warp and the weft are susceptible to tumah, so too the 3 finger by 3 finger patch. The Gemara says, okay, so we now have linen is susceptible to tumah by even a 3 finger by 3 finger patch. But who tells you that? Because we have extra words in the Torah. Well, maybe the extra words are not coming for a tiny piece of linen. Maybe it's coming for a full-size garment that's outside of the wool and linen that the Torah mentioned. And a 3 tefach, a kerchief of silk, will be susceptible to tumah. Why? How do you know that it's including a smaller patch of linen? Maybe it's including, and what remains excluded is a large patch of anything other than wool and linen. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it means it's still talking about a 3 tefach by 3 tefach, a 12-inch by 12-inch patch, and it's talking about a kerchief made of a different material, not wool and not linen. Maybe that's what we should include. The Gemara says no. The Torah explicitly said Amakra beged semeru pishtim. Beged semeru pishtim in. A garment of wool and linen is included, but anything else not. So it says, maybe what's excluded in other garments is only a 3-finger by 3-finger patch. But if it's larger, if it's a size of 3 tefach by 3 tefach, that would be included. It says two exclusions. Beged tzemer or beged pishtim. It says in the garment, if there was a tsaras in the garment of wool or the garment of linen. It says yes. This is in Vayikra Yud Gimel Mem Zayin, and the garment which should have so this is Yud Gimel Mem Zayin 1347 in Vayikra. And it says, if the garment that has the tsaras, be it a garment of wool or be it a garment of linen, now that's an extra word. Beged apishtim, chadli mutir shalosh. Shalosh, one is to tell you that other garments, not wool and not linen, are excluded from 3 fingers by 3 fingers. They don't count, that doesn't count as a patch, and therefore is not susceptible to tumah. I wanted to tell you that even a kerchief size is not going to be included, because the Torah said specifically a garment of linen or a garment of wool. Those are the 2 things and nothing else. However, according to Rava, that said that there is a distinction, and according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, indeed a garment of other materials such as silk or canvas would be susceptible to tumah at 3 tefachim size by 3 tefachim, not by 3 fingers. That they agree, but that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is going to say that 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim is susceptible to tumah. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar isle Natan Rabbi Shmuel lesle shloisha b'shabbat gadol minal. Well, so how do he know this concept that by other garments a 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim is large enough to be susceptible to tumah? So according to this opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, what we said was that only wool and linen will be susceptible to tumah, and not only at a 3 tefachim size, a 3-finger, a fist breadth size, but even by 3-finger breadth, it'll be susceptible to tumah based on the kal v'chomer and the extra word v'habeged. But other garments, there's no susceptibility to tumah, regardless of the size, whether it's a 3-finger breadths or 3 fist breadths. It's not going to be susceptible to tumah. And we learn that from the Torah saying, instead of saying a garment of wool or linen, it says a garment of wool or a garment of linen to tell you these are the 2 garments and that's it. But according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who says that other garments that are large enough to be 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim are susceptible to tumah. Where does he know that? And we'll learn that tomorrow as a Hashem.